Welcome, everyone. Welcome. I'm seeing some cameras coming on and some audio churning. Looks like everyone's connecting. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here this evening to learn about YSM's Opportunity Center. We're just going to give folks this. We're a couple minutes into 6:30s. We're just going to give folks a couple more minutes to virtually arrive before we begin. But just want to start off and say thank you for those of you who are here right now and for being here. We've been looking forward to welcoming you. My name is Nadia Galati. I'm a planner, engagement specialist based here in Toronto. I co-run a shop called Process, and we've been supporting the YSM team with the public engagement for the Opportunity Center, the initial development process. So we really appreciate and want to thank each of you for taking time out of your day to participate today in the meeting. And we've really been looking forward to sharing more about the project and learning from you and gathering your feedback and ideas this evening. So thanks so much for being here. We'll just take a moment to pause and then we'll start in a moment. As we're waiting, one thing we were hoping to do, I should say this, is that we were hoping to have some like nice icebreaker music in the background because these meetings can be a little bit stiff, like virtually. It's a little bit challenging. And so I had asked, and so I have bad reception today, so we're not going to run it, but I'd asked the team what songs that reminded them of either the project or the area. And so one of the songs, and we'll pop, and I'll ask the team to populate. I know Elchin had some songs that they had shared. Cool, one song that was shared by Angie. Angie, I'm gonna let folks know, Cool in the Gang, Celebration was a song that reminded Angie of the project. So if anyone has any songs that they'd like to share that remind them of the project, remind them of the area, I welcome you to share that, or you want to introduce yourself in the chat as we're waiting here for a couple of moments before we begin. I'm going to link to the Cool in the Gang video that I was going to stream. Okay, I see we have quite a few members of our community who've arrived over the past couple of minutes. So I just want to be mindful of everyone's time, and we have a lot of information to share. So I think we should officially begin. And we are recording this evening, and we'll give you some info about that. So folks who aren't able to be here or showing up a little bit late, we'll be able to provide them with an opportunity to see and learn more about the project. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jeannie from YSM to officially welcome us and start us off this evening.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jeannie Sun. I'm the director here at Yonge Street Mission. I would like to absolutely welcome everyone this evening and thank you for making time to begin this important conversation. I know everyone is very busy. It is an incredibly busy time of year, but YSM sincerely wanted to make sure there was space for us to talk to our neighbors about this project. And I'm sure this will be the first of many conversations. So we look forward to hearing from you, not only tonight, but as this project proceeds. So before we start, I have the privilege of opening up today's discussion by first acknowledging the land that we are meeting on. So if you will join me, we acknowledge that the land on which YSM serves the people of Toronto is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. and is now home to many first diverse nations, Inuit and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that, that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. By making this land acknowledgement, we seek to be allies and to take part in the act of reconciliation, honoring the Creator, the land, and the Indigenous heritage of Toronto. So thank you for that. What I would like to do before we start is actually go around the room and quickly, introduce you to some folks who will be joining us in this conversation. So maybe if I, say your name, you can give a quick wave. First, I'd like to introduce Angie, who is our Yonge Street Mission CEO and President, as well as Leah, who is also from Yonge Street Mission. She is our Vice President of Programs and Partnerships. From NCD, who is our development partner, we have Suna and Derek, I believe. We have from DSA, who is our architects, we have Elchin, that will be joining us this afternoon or tonight. We have Sean from SVN, who is our planning consultant. And then we have a whole team of people from Process, who is our engagement partner and will be helping to facilitate our conversation this afternoon. I may miss some names, but you already met Nadia. We also have Casey, Sarah, Emma, Zhao, Willow, and I'm sure there's others on the call. I think that's everybody. If I've missed you when it's your turn to talk, please introduce yourself. And before I hand it back to Nadia to begin our conversation, I'd also like to let everyone know that Jordan Chevalier is from Krista Wong Tan's office, and he is also joining us this afternoon. So yep, quick wave. All right, thank you. So over to you, Nadia. Let's start this conversation.
Thank you so much, Jeannie, and thank you to everyone for being here. I just want to take a moment. Up on your screen, you'll see our goals, essentially what we're hoping to be, what our intentions are for our time together this evening. We want to create space for the YSM Opportunity Center community to gather and build relationships and share information. We want to learn about different community members' perspectives and interests, and learn about and uncover feedback and ideas for the YSM Opportunity Center. So next slide, I want to just quickly run through our agenda for this evening so you all know what our plan is. Of course, we want to welcome you and introduce you to the team. We've developed a project presentation to share with everyone tonight, and following that project presentation, we're going to have a general question and comment and answer period. That we'll all be together, this larger group, for that whole time. After that question and answer period, we're going to break out into smaller discussion groups, breakout groups in the virtual world, and we'll facilitate a bit of a discussion and gather your insights. And then we'll come back all together before we close off for the evening and outline our next steps. So on the next slide, I just have some basic housekeeping notes for this evening, just to make sure everyone's up to speed. And, we want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. I think I'm looking through I don't think anyone is actually joining us by phone, but there are some phone numbers up on the screen, just in case you do have some internet connection issues. You're always welcome to call in using the details up here, and we'll also drop in one of our team members' phone numbers in the chat, just in case you experience any technical challenges and you need some support. You can call one of us, and we'll try our best to walk you through that. This stage of engagement is intended for the project team to connect with the YSM Opportunity Center's community, and the inhumane virtual Zoom meeting reality that we all currently live in. That really makes it a big challenge, but we also know that being on video is taxing and inconvenient. And of course, virtual meetings are very different than coming to a public space because we're each in our own personal home. So we totally understand if people would rather keep their videos off, but we do encourage you, if you're comfortable, to turn the cameras off when we're in those group discussions, just so we can, get to know each other a little bit. And we usually welcome interjections, but with a virtual group of this size, it can be a bit of a challenge. So with that, we've muted everyone until the Q&A period. And during the Q&A period, you'll be able to raise your hand using the raise hand function, which is nestled in your reactions icon. But that being said, throughout the presentation before the Q&A, feel free to submit any questions or comments you might have using the platform's messaging chat system, and we'll make sure they get answered when we open up the Q&A. You can find the chat function, which is the speech bubble icon at the bottom of your Zoom window. And just another housekeeping note to highlight, Zoom provides a closed captioning option. So this meeting is closed captioned enabled. So please feel free to open that closed captioning tab at the bottom of your Zoom window to activate that. And just when I mentioned this at the beginning, we are recording the presentation this evening. We're not going to be recording the Q&A portion of the evening, nor any of the group discussions or the personal commentary, but we're only recording the project presentation so that any community members who are unable to be here tonight, they can view the recording up on the project website. We need a couple of days just to clean it up, but we're hoping it'll be up there by Monday so folks can review it and share any comments or ideas they have outside of tonight. And finally, our team in the background, we're taking notes and compiling a summary that'll help inform the public consultation plan for this project. Okay, so thank you. Next up on the screen, I just want to do an overview of the project team. Jeannie did this a little a moment ago, but just really briefly, who's leading this? Young Street Missions leadership team in close partnership with Sunan of New Commons Development. The team's lead architect is Ulchin of Diamond Schmidt Architects, and the heritage consultants are Michael and Laura of Design Workshop. Planning considerations for the project are being led by Anthony and Sean from SVN, and myself, Nadia, from the process team is supporting the project engagement work. Studio TLA is managing the project's landscape architecture components, and Lee Consulting is the project's transportation consultant. Okay, so why are we here? Why are we here tonight? What does success look like? We want to introduce YSM so you get to know a little bit more about who YSM is and get to know who the project team is. We want to share information about the planning policy and the context that's informing the Opportunity Center's development work. We want to present some initial design concepts for the YSM Opportunity Center and answer any questions that you might have about the project and of course, connect with you and gather your feedback. And I just want to highlight here that what we're going to share with you today are just initial ideas. YSM hasn't even submitted the development application yet. So these are the very early days of project consultation. It's not statutory at all. So what that means is that the design concepts are under consideration. It requires further feasibility, technical studies, and review. And that's part of what's happening right now. And of course, the whole point of consultation is to welcome any ideas that might not have been captured and are feasible. So next slide, I just want to highlight some of the concerns that we know folks may have. Some of these concerns up on the screen are typical of all development projects, and others have already been shared by community members with the project team. And so just to highlight for everyone that our presentation this evening is going to cover these areas up on the screen, among other areas. So for those who might not be with screens right now, some of these important items that we know are concerned are respect for the existing neighborhood and communities who live here, design considerations for all community members, environmental sustainability, transportation and parking, the development process, construction impacts, and community benefits. So next up, we're going to start switching gears shortly and getting into sort of the actually presenting the development project. But before doing so, I just want to set the stage a little bit and share more about the project's history so folks know how we actually got here to today. It began back between 2016 and 2017 when YSM purchased 308 Gerrard Street East. In 2017, in accordance with the Ontario Heritage Act, YSM got approval to demolish 308 Gerrard Street East. During this period in 2017 and continuing into 2018, YSM hosted a series of consultations which fed into the creation of a vision for the project, which was further developed and built upon up to 2019. As is with everyone, in spring of 2020, many things changed. COVID brought on an increased use in YSM's food bank services, and due to COVID, over 1,000 kids were in the shelter system as of January 2021, as many families were displaced due to significant economic challenges. In fall of 2021, YSM was able to refocus on the project and has been further developing the current vision for the YSM Opportunity Center. Next up on the screen, we're just want to share with everyone the anticipated development timeline based on where we are in the process today. In August of this year, 2021, the team had a pre-application meeting with the City of Toronto. And since then, has been working on the design concept, which we'll be sharing this evening. Here we are in November 2021. YSM is hosting initial consultations to inform the first rezoning application and its public consultation plan for the project, which is a required part of any development application in Toronto. You have to submit a public consultation plan. The team is planning to submit that first rezoning application in mid-December of this year. YSM is committed to continuing consultation and actions for the project with stakeholders in the public like yourselves. And that public consultation plan is going to outline the project's 2022 consultation activities. It's anticipated that in late winter, early spring of 2022, the city will host the official, that statutory public meeting, which is the only required point of consultation for development projects. And I want to highlight here for everyone, again, this meeting is considered early engagement. It's not required for any development process. The YSM development team, YSM in general, is hosting these sessions as they're really committed to real community engagement, and think of and see the future of the YSM Opportunity Center as a community space for all that should be shaped by the community. The design team, so just switching back to the timeline again, the design team is going to be engaging in the detailed design phase for the project in spring, summer of 2022. And it's anticipated that a second submission will be needed and will be submitted to respond to the city's comments on the first that were received about the first application, and any public or stakeholder feedback that is received from now and moving forward. It's anticipated the application could make its way to the council floor sometime between fall 2022 and winter of 2023 for council to actually make that final decision. And should all be approved, it's anticipated that construction could begin in spring of 2023 with occupancy expected sometime in winter of 2025. So I'm going to pause and hand it over to Angie Peters from YSN, who's also going to welcome you all and share some opening remarks.
Well, it's great to be here with all of you. I wish we were all in the same room. That would be much more fun, and we'd all be able to enjoy each other's energy as we talk about what's really a very exciting project. And so looking forward to the dialogue that we're going to have together tonight, and the ideas that you're going to bring forward, and looking forward to hearing your questions and concerns and addressing those as well as we go forward. We've got a little bit of information about who we are, just in case there are people on the call who don't know a lot about us. And I'm going to turn this over to our Vice President of Programs and Partnerships, Leah Caterberg, to just talk through these next couple of slides.
Thanks, Angie. Good evening, everyone. I know there's different levels of familiarity with YSM among folks on the call. So just for everybody's benefit, I'll give a little bit of background on who we are and what we do. So we're a local development agency, and our goal has always been to end chronic poverty in the city. We've recently celebrated our 125th year anniversary. So for 125 years, we have been responding to needs in the city. And at the same time, increasingly really trying to understand the factors that contribute to poverty and to chronic poverty and what keeps people there. Because we know that it's a number of things really that converge into a person's life to create barriers that so that they're not able to thrive. And that's really what we try to address through our work. And the reason we do it is because we believe that every person, regardless of religion or ethnicity or any other factor, has immense value and deserves to be treated with respect. So I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do. We provide our services through primarily what we call a wraparound model of care. And that means that, as I said, we recognize that poverty is a complicated thing. There's many factors that contribute to bringing a person into a situation that's less than ideal. And we want to do what we can, as well as through partnership, to address all of those things so that people can really come out of the position of surviving towards thriving. So that includes things like, immediate needs like food, like housing, clothing, those kinds of relief-focused services, but as well as counseling, mental health support, employment, helping people to find work that's suitable for them. We serve 3 distinct population groups. So those would be street involved youth, and most of our youth programming is operated out of the Evergreen Center. Some of you are probably familiar with that. That's over on Spadina Avenue. And we also have a health center on one of the floors in that building. We also offer services to adults and families, and much of that programming happens out of our what we call our Davis Center. It's over on 270 Gerrard, just across Parliament. And then at 306, that's where we have most of our administration and offices. And we also, out of those spaces, have our Double Take thrift store, a computer lab in that building as well. And we have a few rooms that we open up to the community for to host meetings. So that's what we do. I'll pass it back to Angie to provide a little bit of background on why we're doing this in the first place.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. So yeah, why develop anything at all, really, right? I mean, and I think the answer to that, in terms of why are we developing what we're about to talk to you about, is because of who we are. So Yonge Street Mission just celebrated our 125th anniversary this year. And we were founded in 1896 with one purpose, and that's to walk alongside people who are experiencing poverty and help them move out of it. So everything that's informed this particular development is rooted in that single remaining missional purpose of our organization. That's what we're here to do. And we've all just lived through, or actually are still currently living through, a pandemic, which has highlighted both the best things in our society, like incredible generosity of many people that have helped us in a number of ways meet the surge in demand for our services. And then the weaknesses in our society, like the surge in demand for our services because of the inequities and systemic issues and the growing amount of poverty in our city. And Nadia alluded to this a little bit earlier, but just the increase in homelessness of families and the lack of affordable housing in our city is in the news every day. And here we sit, an agency that's been around for 125 years with land that can be leveraged for greater social impact. And that is the only reason that we are doing this, is to try to do more with what we've been given to help more people, and design this for the needs that are growing around us and for years to come, and in ways that make sense given who we are and what we know how to do and how we help people. So we're going to be designing the property to accommodate growing needs going forward. We're going to be engaging in some partnerships, like a partnership with Goodwill in our Double Take store to expand the amount of employment opportunities that we can create for people in the community, and have a well-serviced community hub with all of the things that we are hearing are needed when we engage with community, and use this space to provide some of those services. And we want to make sure that even in how we go about this, that it contributes to the benefit of the community in the building of it, and then also in the operation of it going forward. So that's why we're excited to engage all of you tonight and going forward in multiple meetings, I'm sure, that will come, and conversations. And we look forward to continuing to add to this really great community that we're all a part of. So back over to you, Nadia.
Thank you so much, Angie, for that. And thank you very much, Leah, as well. Just up on the screen, folks, we want to talk a little bit about the public and stakeholder engagement and where we are right now and the emerging community engagement objectives for the project. We want to generate support through a collaborative approach to planning and design. We want to provide accessible and transparent project information to community members and address any community and or neighborhood concerns throughout the entire development process for the YSM Opportunity Center. Next up on the screen, I mentioned a bit earlier when presenting the project history timelines that YSM has held some consultations back in 2018 about the emerging vision for the project. And from then until now, up on the screen are some of the top things the team has heard. That good, safe, and affordable housing is a need. Community controlled and governed spaces is a need. Access is a need for resident-led groups, and space for resident businesses with retail and entrepreneurial opportunities. Heard that there are lots of different kinds of community space needs for events, office space, training space, multi-purpose areas. Community benefits are important for all projects, access to good quality jobs. And specific initiatives that contribute to community wealth building has been clearly heard as a need. Next slide, who are we talking to right now, fall 2021, these initial series. So YSM is hosting a series of, has hosted, yesterday was the last one, a series of focus groups. And tonight, a public meeting to help inform these initial design concepts and the public consultation plan for the project. That's part of that first submission application package. So up on the screen are the various groups that we've met with over the past week. So the Regent Park Social Development Plan and Residents, the immediate and adjacent neighbors. These are folks abutting all around the site. Various community agencies we held a focus group with, the Cabbagetown Residents Association and the Cabbagetown Heritage Conservation District Committee, the Business Improvement Area, and Councillor Wong Tam. And of course, this evening is the public meeting that has been open to all. And so we thank you all, members of the community who are here with us this evening. And we hope to continue this conversation. And so up on the next line, throughout the lifespan of this project. So YSM is truly committed to continued community engagement and will further develop and provide details of what the next consultation steps will be outside of this evening in that public consultation plan, which is going to be made available up on the project website. And if one of our team members can drop a link in the chat so folks can just click it right now and check out the project website. So it's not there just yet because we're working on it, but it'll be up there, the public consultation plan, once the application goes in mid-December. So I would now like to turn it over to Sunna from New Commons Development to provide some details on the redevelopment context.
Thank you so much, Nadia. Good evening, everyone. We're pleased to have you all this evening. My name is Sunna and I'm a development manager with New Commons Development. At this point, you've received an introduction to the Opportunity Center. And before we walk you through the current design concept, I'd like to provide you an overview of the planning and development context in Toronto. The intent is to both at a high level provide an understanding of what exactly the development application is seeking permission for and how the Opportunity Center is aligned with the different strategies and policies guiding change in Toronto. So we'll start with looking at what some of the trends and themes are in Toronto today when it comes to housing development. As you see on the slide, first, housing and climate change is at the forefront of policy discussion. Much of this is because housing is out of reach for many. Housing prices have skyrocketed in past years while salaries have only incrementally increased. We also have an aging population and a lack of housing diversity with the need to provide a variety of housing sizes for families or individuals. Lastly, expanding transit and cycling networks. If we can move to the next slide, thank you. The city recognizes these trends. These are the 4 strategic priorities as outlined in the city's strategic plan. The first is to maintain and create housing that is affordable, where families and individuals live in safe, stable, and affordable housing with respect and dignity. The second is to keep Toronto moving with accessible transportation choices. Third is to invest in people and neighborhoods. Lastly, to tackle climate change and build resilience. Essentially, YSM site on Gerrard is an opportunity to address a number of these civic issues. The Opportunity Center provides an important social space, and as a redevelopment, its uses, design, and gathering spaces will address a number of pressing issues the broader city is experiencing. In order to construct, there are a number of approvals to obtain. If we can see the next slide, please. The provincial government has multiple acts that regulate how land in the province is developed and how buildings should be built. Municipalities can identify additional requirements. The 4 major types of approvals include planning approvals, heritage protections, building permits, and climate change. Planning and heritage approvals will need to be secured before others and is a multi-step process that does take time. Planning approvals are guided by the Planning Act. This act identifies policy documents that both the province and municipalities are to produce. These plans follow a hierarchy or a ladder with a series of documents that implement in more detail the direction of the plan above it. In order for a development to be built, it needs to comply with every level of policy. The highest level is the provincial policy statement, which provides high-level direction and principles for how the province will evolve. And at the lowest level, zoning bylaws provide rules and regulations about development on any given property. If we go to the next slide, you can see that the proposal doesn't comply with aspects of the official plan and zoning, and therefore amendments are required. Amendments are common for any mid-scale development. To secure these amendments, the proposal will need to demonstrate how it still implements the plans above it. If we move to the next slide, please. We will be seeking an official plan amendment, which is the broad policy document that guides development in Toronto and sets the framework for growth and other goals. The official plan is designating half of the site as neighborhoods in yellow, which is intended for low density, similar to the typology of Cabbagetown. The other half of the site is designated as mixed use, which allows for a mix of uses more appropriate for the proposed development. In addition, we will be seeking a zoning bylaw amendment, as seen on the next slide. This sets specific permissions on the building's built form, including heights, densities, setbacks, parking, and much more. Similar to the official plan, the zoning bylaw is designating half the site as low density and the other half of the site with a more intensified density. In addition to planning approvals, heritage approvals will be an important piece of the process. Can you please go to the next slide? One back, please. Thank you. Our site falls within the Heritage Conservation District in Cabbagetown South. Our site is also within an area that is appropriate for growth as recognized in the guidelines for development within the Heritage Conservation District plan, and needs to account for the principles set out in the guidelines to reflect the heritage value of the neighborhood. So what we see is that the policy does not match what the site can handle. On the next slide. As a site on a main street that is well served by transit, well connected to existing infrastructure, social services, and amenities, the site meets many of the planning policy document criteria for intensification. These amendments will align the site permissions with these broader directions. Relating the Opportunity Center back to planning policies, City of Toronto's strategic priorities and current trends, the redevelopment that YSM is proposing will bring intensification and affordable housing, bring inclusivity, and provide diverse living opportunities. The third is high quality architecture and urban design. There will be designated community space indoors and outdoors. And lastly, sustainability. So at this time, I'll hand it over to Elchin from Diamond Schmidt Architects to present you with the design.
Great, thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Elchin with Diamond Schmidt Architects, and I'm the project architect for the Yonge Street Mission Opportunity Center. Let's go to the next slide, please. I'd like to present to you the new community hub project that we're developing. But firstly, as most of you know, this site is at Gerrard on the north side, just east of Parliament. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see that there are currently 3 buildings on the site right now. Also a private laneway and a little bit of surface parking. The next slide, please. So in this new community hub that we are building, there will be 3 programs. One component of the project will be a larger office space for the Yonge Street Mission so that they can really expand and enhance all of their outreach programs. The second component will be building residences, and half of those residences will be affordable rental and half will be market rental. And the last piece is a retail anchor tenant. So the YSM is engaging Goodwill, and in partnership with Double Take, they will be the retail tenant, and we'll be designing a space for them as well. Next slide. To create this new community hub, we really wanted to create connections on the site and throughout the project. And we really wanted to support social interactions. So the main way that we are going to enable this is by opening up the middle of this very deep site by creating an outdoor landscaped courtyard. And all of the programs will have access into and visual connections into the courtyard. And it can become a space for social mixing between our programs. Next slide. The other connection we really want to make is between neighborhoods. The site is in Cabbagetown South, which is a heritage conservation district, but we're also on Gerrard, which is a major thoroughfare, and we're across from Regent Park, which is undergoing rejuvenation. We're matching the density that's proposed in Regent Park, but we're stepping back to the north to create a transition zone into the neighborhood. Next up, next slide. We're also taking this street called Ralston Avenue that currently dead ends at our north property line at the boarded fence you see. And we're pulling it through our site to create a connection to Gerrard. So instead of building a solid wall here and really turning our backs into the Cabbagetown South neighborhood, we're trying to bring them into our courtyard as well. And on the next slide, you'll see what this street will look like as it makes that connection into our courtyard through to Gerrard. Next slide. So a couple of images here show our intention for the courtyard. We really imagine this as a place for social interactions where families can come down from their units or where the office staff can come down for a break. Next slide. This courtyard will really function by providing light and access into the site, and also by becoming an open, informal space for interactions. And perhaps most importantly, this is an amenity that YSM is providing for the public because this is privately owned space that will become publicly accessible. Next slide. On level 1, what we're doing in the office space is shown in blue, is creating large community gathering spaces for YSM's outreach programs. On the other side, we're providing residential amenity that also overlooks the courtyard. We're even accommodating the needs of Goodwill here by allocating a drop-off area for them. Next slide. A level 2 will include more residential amenity overlooking the street and a large green roof for viewing only to create a buffer zone to the neighborhood. And on the next slide, please. Level 3 also includes a large outdoor area, an amenity space that can be shared by YSM and by the residences that again overlooks the courtyard below. Next slide. We just wanted to say that a lot of consideration was given to the elevations and the materials to relate back to the residential character of Cabbagetown South. And a lot of consideration was given to mixing affordable and market rental in an inclusive way. For example, everybody will go through the same residential lobby and everybody will have the same generous balcony on their units. Next slide. I'll just summarize here by saying that this is a project that is trying to become a new community hub. And we're trying to enable that through different types of connections, through access, visual connections, and connections in neighborhoods and between different program spaces. And we're creating spaces for social interactions so you can eventually bump into some familiar faces and begin to form a community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elchin, Sona. Appreciate you both walking us through all of those slides. Just before we close our presentation, folks, and get to answering any of your questions and then a group discussion, just want to refresh everyone's memory of that anticipated development timeline that I shared earlier. So up on the screen, next slide, it just, one slide back, thank you. So back in August 2021, that's when the pre-application meeting took place with the City of Toronto. Here we are today in November 2021, YSM's hosting the initial consultations to inform that first application and that public consultation plan for the application. Team is planning to submit that rezoning application in mid-December 2021. And that public consultation plan will outline all the ways we'll engage you throughout the project in 2022. Anticipated that in late winter, early spring of 22, the city could host that official statutory public meeting, which is that required point of consultation, the only required point of consultation for any development project. The design team will enter in the detailed design phase in the spring, summer of 2022, and it's anticipated they'll submit a second application that responds to any of the city's comments on the first application and any comments received by you and other members of the public and stakeholders on that first submission. Anticipated that the application can make its way to council floor sometime between fall 2022 to winter 2023 for council to make that final decision on the application. And should it be approved, anticipated that construction could begin in spring of 23 with occupancy expected sometime in winter 2025. YSM has really centered its stakeholders, local neighbors, the public at the core of developing the concepts for the YSM Opportunity Center. And the team is actively seeking out your input for the project to help inform physical design of public spaces, governance of community space and community benefits. For physical design of public spaces, approximately a third of the building is going to be dedicated to YSM office space, and approximately 2/3 designed as a community asset for public good. So YSM is actively encouraging folks like yourselves, community input and leadership in the design of the Opportunity Center to meet diverse community needs. So the specific design input we're seeking is what you think of the courtyard, the public amenities, public indoor gathering spaces. We're looking for help identifying space usage and key stakeholders that might be looking for space, the residential amenity spaces, the streetscapes, the public realm. When it comes to governance of community space, over 3 phases, YSM is looking to develop a community-based structure for the governance of the community space in the YSM Opportunity Center. And in this work, the team is aspiring to build upon and contribute to the work already being done in this area through efforts by folks like at the 519 and the Community Benefits Coalition. And when it comes to community benefits, YSM wants to identify and support ongoing inclusive and equitable opportunities for community economic development and access to community space. So with that, we need your help. We want to know what you think. And so we want you to stay involved with us. This is the first conversation. We hope you stay tuned for additional engagement and consultation activities to be held in 2022. So wait for that public consultation plan. Check out the project website in mid-December. It'll be on there. So we've shared it in the chat and it's up on here on the screen. We're also going to drop up on in the chat so it's easy to pick it up, the project email address and the phone number. So, we're going to turn it over now and answer your questions and then ask you some questions. But if you, outside of our discussion today, if you have you would like to share anything else, you want to be in touch with us, send us an email, give us a ring. We'd like to continue the conversations.